everybody. Welcome to It's Like That Madison, where we talk about all things real estate in Madison, Wisconsin, as well as the real estate market here in Dane County. I'm here. My name is Katie Kolakowski. I'm with City RE Real Estate. We have
Tiffany Tobias with Start Company Realtors.
Jannea Wood with Start Company Realtors.
Yeah, and we have a really fun topic today that I'm really excited about. We're going to talk about reality TV shows and what is real in the real world of real estate versus what you might be seeing online and on TV. Um, and we're going to tie our market fact in with that as well. And so, one of the shows that we all enjoy is Love It or List It. And we have seen recently here in the Madison market, we've been approached about questions about remodels versus selling the house. And so, one of the things that we look at as realtors is the information that's in front of us, and whether that's a report recently from the National Association of Realtors. They have a remodeling impact report for 2025. Janae, Tiffany, and I also look at the cost versus value report for 2024. And what we do is we provide you with this information so that you can make best decisions for yourself. What are some kind of top renovation remodeling projects that you all see with your clients?
Definitely kitchen and bathroom would be the popular ones. And often people think that's going to get the most money for return too. And I was surprised when looking through this that those aren't necessarily the ones that you recoup the most, but they do have really high joy scores on that NAR remodeling survey. But it just surprised me that they weren't higher in recouping. And I wanted to say, like, when I watch Love It or List It, they always give people, if they redo their kitchen, they give them like 100 to 150% return. And so I think people watching the show think, oh my gosh, if I spend 100,000 on my kitchen, now it's going to be worth 150,000 that I just put into it. And that's not necessarily the case. The numbers are much lower than that. In fact, a complete kitchen remodel, I think was 60% recoup, 40 to 60% recoup, depending on which
Hmm.
survey you were looking at, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a minor kitchen remodel actually got you a better return on investment. So I think those shows make it seem like you can just do anything and recoup, 1.5 times your amount.
For sure. I think the thing is too, when I've been having these conversations lately, something to take into consideration on that show also too is they give the people a budget and then they start the construction and then they decide if they actually like the construction or they use that for upgrades for the resale. When in reality, that 140, that 150 that you have for that project is your money towards your next down payment. And
Hmm.
so knowing these numbers and creating imaginary scenarios and laying out for the person who's trying to make this decision, I think is really important. And there's a couple factors that I know, Tiffany, you can touch base on too, that just really come into play too, and Janae as well. It's like you don't want to outkick the coverage of your neighborhood too by doing all these
Right.
improvements. And then also too, at the same time, if you choose and you're looking at a new neighborhood or a new house with all these upgrades that you already have too, like if you're sitting on a great interest rate and you don't want to outkick your budget by
Hmm.
potentially moving as well. So what are y'all seen out there?
No, I agree. I think well, I think there's a difference between like when we talk about love it or list it, for example, there's a difference between am I looking at doing remodeling because I want like you mentioned the joy score, right? Like I want to enjoy it. I want to be there. I want to continue to grow value in my house, but I don't necessarily need that value to happen today. So it's not a one for one. So if I'm doing my kitchen for 75,000, let's say, I'm not turning around and selling it. I'm going to enjoy it as well. So there's a difference in spending that money, right? Because you're not looking to get it back. You're going to spend maybe the next couple of years like cooking on your new, in your new chef's kitchen. Same thing with bathrooms. But I agree with you 100%. When we're looking at it again, when we're going in and we're saying these are the things that we have to do in order to sell, what I'm finding a lot of times is that it's not necessarily a full renovated kitchen, right? It's not a full renovated bathroom. It's maybe bringing a company in that might be able to come in and do some painting, do some fixing up, maybe do some new faces on the kitchen cabinets, or change out some um, hardware, right? Hardware, like
Mhm.
things that can make a significant difference, or lighting. Those are the types of things where we're seeing, I think we're seeing getting almost a one-to-one on that return, because you're just kind of sprucing up the property. I mean, I was surprised on that one report from um, the NAR, was that I think the front door said it was 100% return on your
Yeah.
value. But
Yeah.
it's true,
Yeah.
right? It's when you walk in the door. I mean, it is your first point of entry. So yeah,
And
those
garage
that's
door.
our
And
job.
And
garage
garage
door.
door.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So doors are really big on the recoup. So, and things that people don't even think about that aren't very exciting because everyone thinks bathrooms and kitchens sell a house, which it does, but it's not necessarily going to help you in recouping all that money at your sale. So yeah, garage doors, front doors. What surprised me too is deck, that was
Mhm.
only about 50% recoup of cost. I would have thought that would be higher.
Yeah.
Adding a bathroom. Now, I have to think that the cost versus value report, which they looked at, if I remember correctly, it was like homes that were 2,300 square feet, and this was done by homeowners. So a house of that size probably already has two bathrooms, most likely, but they had listed adding another bathroom as only 25% recoup. And I would think a house with only one bathroom going to two would be much higher than that in terms of recouping value. So it might have
Yeah.
just
I
been the
think it was
methodology
interesting.
used.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the interesting thing too about that is, you know, with the 25%, the resale, which does make sense, is probably between 10 and 15,000, but your bathroom price is going to cost you close to 60. So it's just when you
Mhm.
look at those percentages, it just seems so drastic for that, but it makes sense when we're pricing homes in general.
Right. And I would say my own joy score, we redid our bathrooms. It's like an 11 because we each have our own bathroom. And I love going into a newly remodeled bathroom that I got to pick the finishes on. So definitely an 11 for joy score on that.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
I think mine would be definitely the kitchen space, the kind of that space where I feel like you're spending, or an outdoor space. Those would be my two highest for like joy scores on my own house, of just how I want those two spaces to be, so that I feel comfortable when I'm in them.
Hmm.
Well, in the joy scores too, when you're processing a new home and you're in that love it and list it scenario, you need to, and this is what I tell people, is put it down on a piece of paper. Yeah, we have what your house will sell for, but your joy score about walking to lake, walking to church, having your parents right around the corner, being 15 minutes from work, like all of those joy scores are paramount in taking in the cost of your home when you're looking to love it or list it as well.
Good point. Good point. Should we move
I
on?
also,
Oh, go
the
ahead.
one thing I was going to mention is that, just because I know we've been talking about this a lot, and it's not, certainly not a sexy remodel, but one of the things that we're seeing come up more and more often is our buyers struggling a little bit getting insurance coverage if there's like an older roof. So when we're looking at these things that are happening, when we're looking at the items to do, that's our job to try to figure out, what's going to get you the value. And sometimes, like I said, it's not sexy, but if you don't have the roof done, you're going to be renegotiating, taking less than where you're at. So it is good to sit down and really go through all of the items in general.
That was really funny though,
Agree.
because the joy score of a new roof on the NAR was a 10. It was up there with a kitchen upgrade and a primary bedroom sit. And then
Yeah.
it made me giggle because I'm like, I'm pretty sure your joy score would be high so that you're not sitting in water when it rains.
Right.
So
Especially,
like,
yeah, especially if it's leaking currently. Yeah, I loved that too. Trying to think if there, oh, I know one other thing I wanted to mention, which I thought was interesting on this. Our recoup percentage was less than the national average
I saw that too.
on these surveys, which also surprised me. I don't know
Maybe
why.
just cost of living. Madison's still deemed affordable compared to other places in the nation. And
Yeah,
that's kind of the only thing I saw I mean, I could think about that too.
yeah. And we'll attach both of these to the podcast. So if people want to look at it themselves, they can check out the documents that we're talking about, the two surveys.
Hmm. Can always call us too.
And call us. Yep, we'll give advice. All right,
Tiffany,
which
you're a reality TV connoisseur. What are some of your faves?
Like I am like shocked how many reality TV like shows there are in general on every single channel about real estate in general. I know one of the things we've talked about when we talked last week, we were talking about like $1 million listing and house hunters and selling sunset, right? So those are like
Mhm.
three that I feel like a lot of people have heard of or have maybe watched. But it always amazes me, like house hunters, for example, right? Somebody goes out, they look at three houses, they've already made a decision, they're ready to like move on. And they don't really ever go through the trials and tribulations of the process or the
Right.
the reality that you've been looking for 6 months. So I'm thinking that it's obviously done by a producer who probably they've already picked their house, right? And so they're going through and they're just doing it for TV. But what it's hard is that all the public's watching these shows too. So I think sometimes when we're talking about fact and fiction, it's nice because we're talking about real estate and we're adding some of the reality, and we're talking about the TV shows. It's nice to kind of maybe take a couple of these, talk about the differences.
Yeah, so house hunters, we're probably, if we show them three houses might not be available, right? Like a week later to sit down and talk about and have your choice. They also don't show that they get rejected ever, that they don't end up
Yes.
with a house. They always end up with a house when, I mean, the past 5 years, that hasn't been the case for many buyers. They've gone, through a lot just trying to get a house and get rejected a lot. One of my pet peeves about house hunters is no one wants carpet and no one wants stairs. Like what is with that?
It's true. It's when people ask too, like there's people who want stairs, there's people who want carpets, there's people who want all different types of layouts. Yes, some people want the route ranch home that may be their forever home, but it is really fascinating to me too that it's a it's a small snapshot of what actually takes place when
Hmm.
looking for a home. And I know you all have had this too, where people are like, how many homes should I be looking at before I make a decision? And I feel like it is prepped a lot because of TV. There's people who I've had walk in their first home and they know right away that that's the one they want. But then I've been working with people now multiple years, 3, 4 years, and the right one just hasn't come along. And that's something that we're always happy to do too. You don't have to definitely pick one, two, or three. And if you love stairs, it's okay to love stairs, as Janae's saying too.
Right.
I always think too, it's like the some of the just over I would say the last 5 years I see it more than I had before, but just because of the influx of all these shows, there are certain things that like I feel like sometimes our buyers walk into and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a red wall. And it's like, oh wait, it's easy. We can fix that with paint. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these homes that are picked are like very move-in ready, or they're staged properly. And not everyone stages properties in our market. So when we go in, sometimes there's a lot more visual time that it takes to say like, what could this potentially look like with low investment to make
Mhm.
it your own.
Yeah, I agree.
Another thing,
I go
oh,
ahead,
go
Jenny.
ahead.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say another thing I notice is when they're going in to look at houses on House Hunter and it's under budget, they say, well, it's under budget, so we'll have the money then to redo the kitchen and redo the bathroom. But that doesn't mean because they were budgeting 550, the house is 500, that they have 50,000 left
In
over
in
to work with.
liquid.
Right. They
Yeah.
might have 5,000 less of a down payment, cash in their hand. So I would say that's a little misleading too if someone's thinking that the difference in the price of the house is actually going to be what they'd have available to fix things up.
Right, especially after lending costs. A lot of times, especially with first-time home buyers, they think that your down payment is what they're bringing to the table. They don't realize that there's actually some costs over, and that's title
Mhm.
costs, that's lending costs. So, I feel like those shows also too lead a little bit astray.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it's true for sellers, though, to watch and see how critical buyers can be when walking through a home. So whether it's the paint or the carpet or the
Yeah.
steps or, being on a busy road, I think that is probably pretty realistic when it comes to house
Mhm.
hunters.
I agree.
All
Do
right,
you
what's
all have some I like favorite Netflix shows of like buying Beverly Hills or selling Sunset, selling Tampa, owning Manhattan with Ryan Serhant? So
oh yeah.
just seeing what you all love about those.
Okay, so I think we can all say that I don't drive around in, I don't have a driver. Let's just say that. I don't have a driver.
Okay.
I mean, I may once in a while, right? Like if I can coax somebody to come in with me on a long drive, but I do not have a driver. Um, and a lot of times I wear Crocs because I slip my shoes back on and off when I walk in. So it always shocks me. Like they don't have to cover their shoes in these $1 million properties. Like I make people cover their shoes in all of my listings or take them off. I never see them take them off or cover their shoes. What in the heck?
Right, stiletto heels on those floors could be a little damaging. I mean, I love a good heel. I've tried it, but it's really hard to walk around outside the house with heels and not get caught in the grass.
Yeah,
Um,
you're aerating the lawn. Janae's aerating the lawn
Yep,
if
I
she wears
have
heels.
aerated a lawn before, but I'm a little smarter now. I keep boots or tennis shoes in the car. Um, my desk is not just a super clean desk with just a laptop on it. That's not at all what my office looks like it does in Selling Sunset, I would say. That's a little different. Um, I think we dress for our showings too. I think if the show was in Wisconsin, I would love to see how that looks. I dressed like what is it, the Christmas Story? The brother from A
Hmm.
Christmas Story who's all in like the snowsuit and has the, scarf completely wrapped around. We've got boots up to our knees. I mean, that's us in the winter with like just a big marshmallow coat out there trying to sell houses.
No, it's true. I mean, when we think about the diversity, what I love about Madison, Wisconsin, Dane County in general, the surrounding counties like Green Rock in Iowa, Columbus, like all of them, like I just love the diversity, right? So we have lake homes, we have farms, we have downtown Madison, we have we have just such a wide diversity of portfolios that we look at on a daily basis that we cannot dress in, I mean, we could on a red carpet attire. However, it would not be the most functional for me to get down and crawl if I need to
Right.
under something and look at something, or yeah, to hit 5 acres and going through shrubbery and brush or cornfields. We just have a very different area up here. So our couture clothing
Right.
should
Right.
probably stay in the closet.
Right. I have a mosquito net, netting to go over my head when I was walking land. I don't know that that would show well on TV.
Well, and I think too is that, and like I said, like you said, Katie. I mean, I love these shows. I really like to watch them and follow them, because they're just fun to watch. But there's also like an expectation. I always think when somebody's coming into the industry to work, like just realizing like it is definitely not like that, right? First of all, we don't have the stage drama necessarily going on in
Right.
our offices, which is good. But we also have like true obstacles. Like it's not easy. We don't when you're watching any reality real estate TV show, you're not really talking about, we're not hearing about the inspections and the low appraisals and all these other things that are coming up like through that process. And it's more like, hey, I'm going to pick up my phone and call you, Katie, and I'm going to offer you this. Then you're going to say no. I'm going to go back in, sip on my martini, and say to my client, hey, Katie said no, what about this? Then I'm going to walk back out, and then we're going to agree on it. Like, we can't do things like, we can't operate like that anyways. We have to put everything in writing. Everything has got to be by the book from our Wisconsin, contracts that we all use as licensed agents. So a lot of that is I
We
wish we
shouldn't be
could.
drinking. We shouldn't be drinking while doing
Right.
our
Right.
job
Right, right.
either.
And terms are confidential, right? So we can't tell somebody I have an offer for X amount, but if you come back for this, it's yours. And they do that on that show. And I have a lot of people think around here that we can
Yeah,
share
yeah,
that to say,
yeah.
well, what's the other offer? It's not
Or
an
just
auction like setting.
yeah, just do the deal like Tiffany said. Like, why don't you just call them up? Like, do I have to sign something? I'm like, yes, you absolutely have to sign. Like, just to go back and touch base on that point with Tiffany, it is everything needs to be in writing. We
Hmm.
we and you know to protect our clients too, we don't want that verbal. We want it down in writing so that it's a legally binding contract. And
Yep.
that's really important. So yeah, that's a really interesting facet to me. They do
Yeah.
that.
And I love all of these shows too. And one we won't really talk about because it's in French, but the Paris agency
Hmm.
is excellent too. But I think what Million Dollar Listing does really well and Owning Manhattan, because I watch all of them and I think they do a really good job of showing, as Tiffany kind of mentioned earlier, the in between, the stuff that's going on between when you look at a place and close. They have negotiations, I think they demonstrate really well, like difficult and tough conversations with their sellers if things are priced too high and not selling. They also show the different personalities we get into in real estate. I don't think we're as dramatic and we're not throwing people in a pool, but it shows the variety of individuals you might come up against.
I agree. I really liked also to touch base about that, just like other things that you don't typically see in real estate or know about agency. Buying Beverly Hills with Mauricio Umansky. I really thought season one did a great job outlining how hard it is for a brand new agent to start out in this field. I don't think people realize that it's something like 80% don't make it in their first year. And then of that 20%, 80% don't make it again in their second year. So to get to year five is incredibly tough in our industry. And I think the agency did a great job in their show following around three brand new agents and having them have those discussions and just showing that it's not, oh, look, I closed, $100 million house and made 30 million in commission. Like that's just not our
Right.
life. And so I really appreciated that show for doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good too. Are we missing any? What other shows are out there? Any others that we're missing?
I love selling Tampa also too. I don't know if you all watched that one. I loved it with Allure Realty. That's Cheryl Rosado. She's a black woman who owns her own brokerage, and that just to me was super inspiring and a fun season to watch. So I was a big fan of selling Tampa. That one kind of disbanded, I think, after season one. It didn't
I think
have much after
so.
that, but I did love that one. I loved just the woman in real estate, the women in real estate movement there.
I really do like the Reno ones. I think I texted you guys and I was watching this show. It was called like um beer budget Reno, and it was like
Mhm.
campaign taste on a beer budget. And there's a few of the other ones. Like I like the ones where they're the before and the after, in like a 30-minute time frame or 40-minute time frame where they start, or like the unsellable houses where you get to see what it looked like before and after. Not necessarily because of the value that it necessarily provides on it, but just for the ideas. I love to see the ideas that people do with their homes. And I really am so intrigued by the different markets that they go into and just the cost of purchasing homes in those
Yeah.
outlying markets that
I
we
love
don't
seeing that too.
follow.
Which I'm guessing
Yeah.
is why we're all watching it, right? There's like a voyeuristic quality that we like to have. But then, yeah, like you said, for ideas. And do you think it's better for these shows to be out there being a realtor? And, we know these shows are out there and our clients are watching them. Is it better that they're out there, or is it maybe more of a negative influence to our business having these shows out there?
I think it goes both ways. I really do. I think there's some value there to kind of see the process. Like you said, some of the shows really do dig in a little bit deeper. I think that the negative, again, it goes back to the fact that they're filming, or some of the these shows are maybe like what 22 minutes all in with the commercials, and so
Hmm.
we're missing so much of the process. And so a lot of them are showing the process as being really fun, which I think it is really fun, but we have to take it back and say, here's the other things that are going to be really important that you have to do as a buyer or seller to get us to the really fun part and to get us to the closing. I also think it's crazy that on these shows they kind of show their negotiation tactics, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, they're kind of giving their techniques, but that's a big part that you need to know when you're choosing an agent on, whether to buy or sell their house is, how are they working for you and how are they as a negotiator and, protecting your asset one way or the other. So I'm surprised that some of these big time, million-dollar listing agents and stuff show the background of that stuff, because that's stuff that I like to hold close to my chest, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think to Tiffany's point too, that there's some people on these shows that do a lot of real estate. So it's interesting to see those negotiation tactics. And then there's just some on here that they are putting on to put on because they know that they have a big social media following. One of the ways that you can always check on people's statistics or scores is Tiffany and I had a fun afternoon of going through these reality before even the podcast was invented. Like we went through and we wanted to see how much some of these reality stars were actually selling. And so it was a little bit of an ego boost to see that the three of us sometimes are selling more than some of these reality TV stars. And so taking, like Tiffany also addressed too, is some of the things that are going on in those conversations, taking them with a grain of salt and making sure that you're researching, doing your investigation on who your agent is, shopping around. Homes.com makes those numbers very, very visible. And you can type in an agent's name. You could type in the reality TV's agent's name even too and see how much production they're doing and selling. And I mean, there's some on here that are just have been in the field for a long time. Ryan Serhant is an example.
Mhm.
Maurizio Umansky, their numbers are phenomenal. And so there are some people who are really do know what they're talking about, but then also to just being aware that reality TV is like it's not always reality. So
But it's fun.
yeah.
Definitely fun.
It's fun. It is fun.
Yeah. All right. So next week, episode 5, we're going to kind of do the same thing where we're going to weave in the market facts into the podcast rather than just have it be up front. And we're going to look at 2 suburbs outside of Madison. I won't say which ones they are, but they both are of Norwegian heritage. They both have really cute downtowns, and they're both by some great county parks. And we're going to just take a look at what you can get more bang for your buck out there, what lifestyle would be like, and what they both have to offer.
It'll be a
Sounds
good one.
good.
Yeah, it'll be a good one.
All right, and it's like that. Thanks for joining in, everybody. We'll see you next time.